You're listening to Navigating Eldercare, where you'll find guidance and answers for every step of the eldercare journey. Each week, eldercare advocate Laura Daniels brings you expert insights and practical solutions to help families and professionals make confident care decisions.
Hello, my name is Laura Daniels, founder of Care Advocates, and your host for Navigating Elder Care. For years, I have been helping families and medical providers, doctors, case managers, social workers, nurses find the right solutions for seniors in transition, whether that is after a hospital stay, a rehabilitation stay, or when care needs at home have changed. We assist in finding the right care options. I started this work because I saw how overwhelming and confusing the elder process can be, and I wanted to be a guide and a resource for families and professionals. In my business, we walk alongside families every step of the way. We connect them with resources such as assisted living communities, residential care communities, memory care, and community resources. We advocate, guide, and educate through the entire time that we work with our families. The care journey should never feel overwhelming. It should feel guided, supported, and understood. Welcome back to Navigating Elder Care. I'm your host, Laura Daniels, and in today's episode, we are going to talk about, the topic is, you don't know what you don't know, and this is related to a loss. And today we have Esther Pipoly. Welcome, Esther.
Hi, Laura.
Esther's a founder of Loss of Life Advocates. Esther, she turned her own personal tragedy into a mission to guide families through one of the hardest moments in life. From grief support to practical planning, she helps families every day navigate loss with compassion and clarity. I thank you for being here. Esther, I want you to share your story. What inspired you to create Loss of Life Advocates?
Thank you, Laura. I'm so excited to be here with you. Yeah, so Lola, first of all, it's my mom's name. So the company is named after my mom, who I think is one of the strongest women that I've ever been blessed to have her as my mom. But she always said that knowledge is power. So let's start there. And Lola really was birthed out of an experience. I lost my dad and my husband in 2014. Both to cancer. I knew that my dad was at the end of his life in 2013 to 2014. He was here at the Village of Incarnate Word. And I learned a lot about long-term care. And even though I had a benefits background, there was so much I didn't know. That's why we don't know what we don't know. My father passed away from bladder cancer in July of 2014. And the day we buried him, my husband said, "I don't feel good." And 10 days later was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And 50 days later was gone. And it was a really fast emotional roller coaster, and I really did not know anything about how my husband paid the bills, how he ran his law office. There were a lot of things I did not know. So Lola was really birthed out of the experiences from a caregiver standpoint, from being a child caregiver for my dad, being the spouse of a business owner, a lawyer here in San Antonio, and all the things that go into shutting down a business. And then the individual experience of raising children. Even though my kids were adults, I felt like they were little again. So I was having to navigate all the emotions and being a single woman. And believe it or not, my husband's life insurance didn't pay. So I had to fight for life insurance, and we settled the estate 840 days after the day he died. And two of my heroes, Bobby Allen and Tom Crosley, lawyers here in San Antonio, wonderful, wonderful lawyers, settled the account, the estate for me, and they took their well-earned money, and I took the rest and started Lola because it was what was left of my husband's legacy. Mm-hmm. And I thought, if I can do for other people what I didn't have in those moments that were really, really scary, then maybe I could make it into a business. And so it started just kind of from the experience of not knowing what I didn't know, and I'll be in my 10th year, January.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. Tell us a little bit about, what does LOLA do for the listeners that may not be familiar of what kind of situations or life transitions there are. What does LOLA do for families?
So we look at the loss part of, when people see LOLA, it's Loss of Life Advocates. We look at the loss of any type of loss. So it can be loss of, obviously, a loved one. It could be a loss of a pet. It could be loss of a job. It could be loss of kids going off to college. It could be the loss of a marriage. It could be any type of loss where somebody's going through a dementia diagnosis and all of a sudden their family is losing their person every day because their capabilities are diminishing. Mm-hmm. So we look at the loss of any type of life transition from birth to bereavement that a family will go through, and we are the quarterbacks. I like to say we triage. So people call us and say, "Hey, I'm going through this life transition. I'm losing a caregiver for my adult child with autism, and I'm a nurse, and I need support. I need to find somebody. I've got 3 weeks. We jump in. I contact all of my trusted partners who are people like you that do wonderful, wonderful work in our community and abroad and say, hey, who do we know that does this business? Who do we know that can help? Sometimes it's families coming to us for legal support, that maybe their loved one is going to undergo an open heart surgery, or they've had a stroke, or they're going home and they need to get their affairs in order. So we have access to legal resources at discounted rates to help families. So whether it's private home care, placement, nursing services, anything you name it, I always tell people we just don't, handle reptiles and jump out of planes. And that pretty much tells everybody what we do.
So you are a bank of resources, information, guidance, support, education for
Correct.
anyone going through a loss. And it's not just losing someone or someone dying. It's any change of life.
Correct.
That disrupts you, that shatters you, or that you just need help with.
So we've had families that have come to us, and grandma, got a reverse mortgage to stay in the house. Adult daughter was living with her. Grandma dies. The adult daughter's there. The granddaughter calls and says, hey, we got this letter from a reverse mortgage company, and my grandmother died 6 months ago, and the letter says we have to be vacated out of the property. So we will work quickly with her to contact the reverse mortgage company to ask for more time, get a real estate agent involved, liquidate the house, pack up, pack out, find a new place for mom. Mom has a barking dog, so it's not as easy as it turns out. So, so we do a lot of different things for families to help them get over the hump.
Tell me more about your team. You mentioned a lot of people in your team, but you also work with attorneys, funeral homes. Tell me a little bit about that.
So we look at everything from veteran support services to funeral directors to cremation support specialists. And we have a variety of people because everybody has a different budget. We have real estate agent, we have property managers, we have placement, we have private care home representatives and people that own their own companies. We have people that are daycare sitters, we have nursing, we have private providers like doctors that will help be second opinions for families. Then we have the lawyers, and we have various lawyers. We have everything from criminal to family to estate and probate, and even litigators, because sometimes families are in a state of flux and maybe disagreement after somebody passes away over how somebody left their estate intact and who they left property to. And so it's not just a probate attorney. You need an attorney that knows how to litigate. So that can be somebody that we have to refer to. So we have an enormous amount of referral partners that we call trusted partners that we vet. We become close with. And, of course, when we get a complaint, we take it seriously. We go back to our partner and we say, hey, there might have been, some miscommunication, but here's an opportunity for us all be better at this, because we're never going to be 5 stars. I always tell people, when you're going through loss, it's all going to be kind of subjective. And if you don't get the outcome that you wanted, it can be a little hard. And sometimes it's hard for us as partners to tell the truth and have to say, I know this is what you wanted, but it's not going to be what you wanted. So my trusted partners are really a soiree of various people that do a lot of different things. Skilled nursing facilities, private care homes,
palliative care,
hospice. So a lot of different people in a variety of professions.
And this is a team of professionals that you've put together to help with all of the challenges that come with
Correct.
loss.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of the impact and challenges, Esther. What are the biggest misconceptions people have about when they're preparing for loss or grief support services, and how does LOLA address those misconceptions?
So I think it's always funny. People say if I get prepared, I'm going to die or something's going to happen to me. I'm going to jinx myself. And I always say, the greatest gift you can give anybody is being prepared. That's kind of my dad. My business is kind of a family business, even though everybody's passed away. But my dad was Mr. Prepared. Like, let's have the conversations. Let's be uncomfortable about the elephant in the room. We need to talk about the things that nobody wants to talk about. So, there's a misconception, especially, in our culture, I'm Hispanic, that, if we open it up and we open the universe to it, something's bad's going to happen, so we don't want to talk about it. So we really spend a lot of time educating and telling stories about here's what happens if you do not get prepared. So the biggest misconception is that people think that if they wish it or they talk about it, it's going to happen. It's not going to happen. 100%, we're all going to die.
Esther, in your experience, what mistakes do people commonly make after a loss that better pre-planning could have prevented?
Wow. So I want to say the number one is they go to the bank. And if their bank accounts are not styled or there is not anybody on the bank account, unfortunately, bankers have to freeze accounts. So many families don't prepare by putting their banking and their finances in order to make sure that somebody else has access to those funds in case something happens to them. Many people think to contact, the electric company or the water company or all those things, the mortgage company. Don't do anything until you get the death certificate. And we know that the death certificate is going to take about 2 weeks to maybe a month. That is your passport to everything. You don't need to tell everybody that something's happened. Grieve. Spend your time grieving, going through the process, because if you say something too quick, then the CPS company is going to want to know, well, who's going to take over the bill? And so I've had some clients that have walked into a home where their aunt meant to do something well for them by calling the utility companies, and they walk in with no electricity and no water. And it's not on the fact of, a fault of the utility companies. They're just looking at who's going to take over the payments. And even though they have a lot of compassion, people tend to make mistakes really quickly when something like that happens.
And there's no way you can know that.
No.
Right?
Because you don't know what you don't know.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
There's no way you can know all of that. Let's talk about advice and broader perspective. For someone listening and thinking, I don't have an estate plan or my loved ones don't have things in order, what are the first steps you would recommend they take now, Esther?
Well, always contact us at LOLA or your company, Care Advocate, because you
Give us your number now.
210-802-2224, so 210-802-2224.
Okay.
And, text me. I love getting phone calls, but majority of the time texting is always a little bit easier for me to look at, especially if I'm with a client. Sometimes I'm in a hospital, so I just can't respond as quickly when I hear voicemails. But I would say that, I think I forgot the question because I was so busy. It's okay.
The question was,
it goes to prove.
For someone listening and thinking, I don't have an estate plan or my loved ones don't have things in order, Esther, what are the first steps you would recommend that they take today?
As you can all see, I'm human.
Yes.
I would say, first of all, contacting either a LOLA advocate like you or myself, contacting us, and we have packages that you can purchase to get your affairs in order. We have playbooks, both of us do. Downloadable, we have them in print, but it walks families through getting their affairs organized, everything from your personal information to your financial and banking and real estate to everything that makes you, your life infrastructure, and then getting your estate organized. You need all of those things on those first 3 sections to get to the point where you take everything to your estate lawyer or your probate lawyer that's going to prepare everything for you. Because the will has to have all of your properties. The will has to have all your family members. The will needs to know, do you have cars? Do you have boats? Do you have animals? Do you have multiple real estates? Do you have, timeshares? So that LOLA playbook is something that really is affordable. A lot of my partners, you can get my services free through them. But really, I would say if somebody has not done themselves well by getting prepared at this point, it's never too late. Reach out to us. We can get you started. We have affordable packages. We have things that you can do that don't cost you anything to get organized, which are checklists.
When I asked you for what did you want to name this episode, you said you don't know what you don't know. That's perfect because you're right. You don't know. You can't know all of these things.
Right.
It's impossible.
It is. Through the years, I've learned so many things. I learn something every day. I have partners that will call and say, did you know about this? Did you know about that? And as soon as I hear about it, I'm like, wow, like Pocket Nurse. I don't know if you've heard about them, but it's something that's it's an available resource for families with a dementia diagnosis. And so every day I learn new resources that are out there because I don't know what I don't know, and I think that is where our partners really do.
And there's
come in.
A lot of no-cost resources also.
Exactly,
Yes.
Through the United Way, but also through UT Health or now UTSA. I should say there are so many programs that every time I start Googling or looking for a resource or calling somebody, they tell me about something. And I think that San Antonio really does have a really great just a network of trusted professionals that work together. There are a lot of people in our industry that some people would say is, we're all competitive. Actually, we're not competitive. We're all collaborative.
We're all a resource.
That we want to help
everyone.
These families that are going through these crisis moments.
Yes. So if you are going through a loss, right, instead of calling 10 different people, they can call you.
Correct.
And you can connect them to all of the resources and everything that they need. And talking about your playbook, there's also a business part to it.
Yeah.
If you have a small business or big business, there are things that you don't think about.
I always ask people, you have a partner. Okay, so do you get along with your partner's wife? Or you've gone through a divorce, which I have a good friend that just went through a divorce, and I was like, okay, day number 1, you need to go to your attorney and make sure you update that your wife is no longer the beneficiary on your legacy plan for your business. Otherwise, if you were to drive out somewhere and get in a car accident, she's now going to become the owner of the company with your partner. So our business playbook actually walks business owners through. It doesn't have to be a death. It could be just a major car accident that disables them, and walking them through, what do you do with the employees? Do you have to reduce your workforce? Do you have to come up with severance packages? Who's looking at the receivables? Who's looking at the accountables? What does your lease look like? For most of us that are entrepreneurs, we are the breadwinners. So if we stop being there and being the breadwinner, who's going out there and making those calls and making sure you're keeping the lights on?
Yeah. And that's what happened with your husband,
yes,
right?
He was a trial lawyer, and
yes.
I can honestly say he had $300,000 in judgments that I never knew was my job as an executor to go and collect. I think it was like year 3 or year 4 that I was like, by the way.
Your story, when he passed, people were walking into his office and walking out with bottles of wine, cases of wine. And
How
cases
dare
of clients. Right.
Yes, they were signing them up at gyms. There were other attorneys that were meaning to do well, thinking, we need to take care of these clients. But the estate, everything needed to go through the estate. So it was really a total loss, and I just didn't know what I didn't know.
Esther, what emotional advice do you have for people grieving, especially those who are overwhelmed by the practical tasks that come with loss?
You don't have to do it alone. That's where when we started LOLA, we wanted to make sure that people knew there was a safe place to land with confidentiality. We wanted people to realize that in this moment when we want you to grieve, we want you to be sad, we want you to move through all the emotions that go with losing somebody you love or actively losing somebody you love with dementia. We want to make sure that you've got the support. We're the business side of things for you. So if we can make the phone calls, if we can do the actionable items behind a life transition or loss, that's what we can do. We can take those things off your plate. It really is incredible when people have a loss. They just want to be as busy as they can and move through it as fast as they can. And so they're cleaning and packing and boxing. And some people have to move fast. Don't get me wrong. I had to move really fast. But if you don't have to move fast, we want you to say, here, can you do this for me? Can you make these phone calls? Can you do these death certificate distributions for us? Can you contact the employer and ask about the 401k? Can you contact the kids' school counselors and let them know they're not going to be in school because their dad died? If we can do that and take that off of your plate, then that's what we want to do, because we want you to move through this, because if you don't take care of your grief when it's happening, it's just going to come up later.
I think you're so much more than the business side, right? You're everything. You're the therapist, the advocate, the support. It's so much that you do and offer.
It's been an incredible journey. I would have never thought in 2017 that when I was putting this to paper and trying to figure out what it was that I wanted to do, I just wanted to be that person that people looked at and said, she got me through it. Like, it was the hardest time of my life, but she got me through it.
And I love what you say. It's not just you. You have a team of people that help you with all of this.
Exactly.
Esther, how do you think society's attitudes towards death, grief, and end-of-life planning have changed over the past few years? Do you think that we are more open now to talk about these topics than we were before?
Yeah, I think COVID, as crazy and horrible as it was, it did something. It changed us and made us have to talk about loss of people that we weren't expecting to lose, having to talk about separation. And, when I have these conversations with our community leaders and they ask, like, what do you think the biggest issue is right now around grief? I'm like, loneliness. I think there's a lot of lonely people, and I think that COVID did that to us. It made us kind of isolate. And so there's still, even at 5 years later, right, we're just now coming out. And, we're still starting to get out and do things with people and engage. And I think that some people are almost afraid of engaging to the point, because when you go through such tragic loss as we did, and you go through the grief alone, like many of us did, there's this kind of like second degree trauma that we go through. It's like we're afraid to get too close because we're also afraid of the loss. I don't want to get too close to you because I know I might lose you. And so grief is a funny thing. It's reaching out for somebody that's been there the whole time and they're gone, and then it's also reaching out for somebody that's never been there and they're not there for you again. So I think that from a community standpoint, and what COVID taught us was that that loneliness is a big thing that is associated with grief, and that we have to work at really making sure that I think it's a new epidemic, that people are really dealing with a lot of loneliness. And there's a lot of stuff that we don't hear about. I get calls about suicides and stuff like that, and we don't hear about them because people are really suffering in silence.
Thank you. That was, you're right. We all lost we either lost someone during COVID or we knew of someone that was just so unexpected, right? That 30-year-old, that 80-year-old. Esther, give me your most meaningful, and I know you've had thousands of them, but I want you to think of your most meaningful and memorable success story that you've had with a family that you have helped through LOLA.
So I know we were talking a little bit before we were taping today, and I told you Michelle Young, who I'm going to send this to her, because she is one of my favorite people. She was one of my clients that came through when her husband was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And it was before COVID.
How did she find you?
She found me through a friend, through actually Tom Crosley, who was one of my attorneys. His wife, best friends with Michelle, and he gifted hours to her. So he called up and said, I want to gift hours to Michelle. Her husband just got diagnosed with brain cancer. And so Karen and him gave her 10 hours, and I think I spent probably 30 or 40 hours working with her, if not more, because once I started, I couldn't stop. But she was a beautiful person with 3 children in very impressionable ages, middle school and high school. Dad was starting to stumble and fall. They realized something was wrong over the holidays, got past the holidays in the first of the year, and he was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And he went down really quick. But when she was introduced to me, I remember meeting with her in my little fishbowl office and her saying, we're always going to be friends forever because I'm never going to forget you or being honest with me. So we talked a lot about taking her husband home, from the hospital. He wanted to die at home, and we talked about the room. Well, what room is he going to be in? And is that a room your kids are going to have to go through every day? And is that
you
what
were talking
want?
about her personal home?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And she was like, well, Brad really wants to go home. And I thought, so we talked about the kids and their ages and who was more open to what was happening. And it ended up where, he had everything he wanted. And she was so funny. She's like, I could cremate me, throw me in the wind. I'm very opposite of Brad. He wants bagpipes, and he wanted the full Catholic, mass. And so we worked together through the process. And I was not with her, but texting. I went and looked at the cemetery. I found her a spot to bury Brad. I helped her witness Brad's body when he was when they opened the casket, so she didn't want her children to be there with them to see that. She needed her moment of privacy, and I was able to afford that to her without being a family member because she wanted her family and friends to grieve too, because they were grieving his loss as well after he died. And her kids were, they had kids from high school, and it was just a really beautiful ceremony. And afterwards she said, hey, can you do me a favor? Will you make sure that Brad gets buried? And so I'd never done that for a client. So I watched the internment with the funeral directors over at Sunset. Shout out to them because they do a wonderful job. And I left. I shot a picture of the flowers on top of his where he was buried. I went home and I laid down because I was like, oh, wow, I feel a little stressed out. And then, as sad as it was, I, always let myself cry at the end. So I had, some alone time, my own grief time, because Michelle had gone through this so gracefully and so beautifully, and she welcomed me with open arms. I mean, I was there with her closing out the employer statement with her husband's employer, 401ks, and I was there with her in the room to be her second set of eyes. And she really allowed me to walk through this really tragic moment with her and this with her children. And then a couple of years later, I get a text with a picture, and she's being proposed to. Aww. And I thought, this is the full circle. Yes. I told her, you're not going to be okay for a while, but you will be okay one day. And so she is probably one of my stories that I love to share because I feel like she really opened herself up after that. But I gave her the ability to grieve. I was able to do the things that she just didn't have the strength to do, so she could focus on her kids.
Oh, that's beautiful. And you said you gave her friends the ability to grieve.
Correct.
Can you tell me a little bit about that? We talked about that earlier.
Yeah, so her friends, everybody wants to jump in as friends. Mm-hmm. I want to help. And they were able to put the pictures and everything together, but she was like, I want my friends to grieve. I don't want to have to lean on them to have to do the work. So we were able to give her friends and her that ability to grieve her husband.
Esther, let's talk about LOLA's future and vision. Looking ahead, what are your hopes for LOLA in the next 5 to 10 years? Any new services that you think you would add? Or
Yeah, so every year we add on new things. Right now we are working with a company called Keep It Saved out of Austin, where they can now take our playbooks and then take everything and put it into the cloud, which there are a lot of cloud-based platforms, but this is something that's going to be exclusive to LOLA. And then, of course, I'm partnering with palliative companies, and so I really see us growing through palliative companies to offer LOLA services moving into the future.
Finally, Esther, for listeners who may want to learn more about LOLA, what is the best way to contact you other than the 210-802-2224, correct?
Yes, info@lossoflifeadvocates.com or info@lolasupport.com. That's a little bit shorter.
I thank you for being here.
Thank you for
It's been
having
a pleasure. And thank you for joining me on Navigating Elder Care, where we bring guidance and answers to every step of the elder care journey. If you are a family member, a hospital case manager, a healthcare provider, and you know someone facing a change in health or planning for a future care need, Care Advocates is here to help you find the right care at the right time. Our commitment is simple: care, compassion, and a lifetime of support. For a free consultation, you can call me at 210-669-2222. You can also listen to past episodes on YouTube or listen on your favorite podcast application. You can also listen to us here every Sunday at 8:30 on 9:30 a.m. The Answer. I am Laura Daniels, and this has been Navigating Elder Care, helping you find the right care at the right time for the people that matter the most. Thank you for listening.
This has been Navigating Elder Care with Laura Daniels, providing guidance and answers for every step of the elder care journey. For a free consultation, call 210-669-2222 or email laura@advocatern.com. Catch every episode on 9:30 a.m. The Answer, YouTube, your favorite podcast app, or at advocatern.com.